Hey guys, what's up? My apologies. Don't know what happened, but we just improvise, we adapt, we overcome, we find out how to get through it. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to get down to the slides that I need for today. And then we'll get, nope, wrong one. Got to go a little farther down. We will figure it all out. So today we're going to talk about how to take the information that we've been getting all week and now start getting into implementation. So I'm trying to get these slides where they need to be at. I don't know what's been going on with StreamYard this week that we use, but we'll eventually get it fixed. So I want to share a story with you guys on waiting to implement, and the time that it cost you. So about back in 1983, I graduated high school, and I had the unique opportunity to go to work for a billionaire in San Antonio. His name was Red McCombs. Unfortunately, he just passed a couple of weeks ago. Made millions and stuff in the car business, and then he eventually diversified into a whole bunch of stuff. But so I went to work for him for a couple of years at his house, and it was a real paradigm shift for me. My parents were very blue collar, middle class parents. My dad was military, and so that's the way we grew up. We were never hungry, but we didn't have a lot of extra either. And so, one of the things that was a big thing for me was that when I worked for him, everything was a big shift in my thinking process from not having any money to money never being an object. And I remember the profound effect it had on me and understanding that. So now let's fast forward to 1999, 2000. A bunch of martial artists were sitting around the campfire one night and was like, we're discussing, I wished I'd have known that when I was younger. And so I said, you know what? I'm tired of having this conversation. We have to find something to do for the children that we coach and we teach. And how can we implement things in their lives at a much faster pace to give them a better opportunity when they hit adulthood? And so I called Mr. McCombs on the phone and I said, hey, what did you do to go from your very humble beginnings, because he grew up poor, to the wealth and success you've had in your life? And he said, Gary, I gave you something the very first Christmas you came to work for me. He goes, Mrs. McCombs gave you all that frilly crap. I gave you something of substance. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, son, did you read it? And after an embarrassing pause of, well, I got to the first chapter. And he said, well, son, you're a dumbass. He goes, I didn't give you the book for it to sit on a shelf. I gave you the book because it changed my life. Go read the bleeping book. Yes, sir. Call me back. Yes, sir. So I read the book. The book was Think and Grow Rich. Now, the very first couple times I tried to read it, it was hard for me to digest. I didn't grow up that way. I didn't grow up with those thought processes. I'm not sure if you guys have read the book or not. If you have not, I highly recommend you invest in that. And I'm going to kind of go over some of these thought processes today because they're massively important. And it's one of the biggest sticking points that entrepreneurs deal with every day. Now, it doesn't make any difference if you are a martial artist, you're a coach with some kind of sport, you are a teacher for dance or whatever it is. None of that makes any difference. The success principles are the same. So let me give you a backstory on the book if you've never read the book. So turn of the century, Andrew Carnegie. If you ever heard of Dale Carnegie, this is his grandfather. Andrew Carnegie was a very successful man, richest man in the world at that time. He wanted to find out what made people tick. There's an old rule about the 80-20 rule, and you can probably see it in your staff member, that 80% of the work is done by primarily 20% of your staff. And that's the same way it is in the world. He wanted to find more 20%ers. So he hires Napoleon Hill directly out of college, a broke college kid, and he says, I want you to start doing study on successful people. Now, because Carnegie was the wealthiest man in the world, all the other wealthy people wanted to be around him. The Carnegies, the Mellons, the Vanderbilts, all these people. So what he does is he gets Napoleon Hill to study the 500 most successful and wealthiest people in our country from 1908 to 1933, 25 years. And he's studying every single thing they do, what they practice on a daily basis, how they teach their kids, just a very different way, and these success principles. So inside the book, Think and Grow Rich, are these 13 success principles. And why they're so important is because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get hung up on things. We get hung up on fear. We get hung up on limiting belief. We get stuck. We get mired down in the mud. We let other people's thinking really kind of influence us. And so the thing that I really want to cover today with you is, how do we get there? So if you guys are still interested in joining the VIP pass, just scan the code and then we'll get you there, and then we'll cover it afterwards. You can ask any questions about what we've gone over the last 5 days. You can do all that stuff. And you can do that right there by just scanning that code. So let's get into what these principles are. So the first one is a burning desire. So I want you to think back about when you open your business, when you open your academy, when you open your studio, when you open your coaching program. Why did you do it? What was that reason why? What is it? You love the hobby and you now were converting it over into a business. And for a lot of us, that's the way it is. We loved what we did so much that we wanted to make a difference. And we knew that. But a lot of times when you go from that hobbyist, that person that's in that skill program, and you're now moving it into a business, it's a big transition. We love doing all the teaching stuff. We hate doing all the other things. And so you have to have a burning desire about what it is you want to accomplish. So the reason why I think you're here is that you want to build programs inside of your academy that are going to increase your revenue, increase your profitability, build freedom in your life, and most importantly, impact the children in the community that you serve. Because we have to serve first. We have to have a serving heart. Because if you have a selfish heart, I promise you, you'll never accomplish the things in life you want, not fully. So having a burning desire about where you're at is understanding that. And you need to write these things down. So one thing I do with my coaching clients is we sit down and we actually do, and I know you guys have seen this before and you probably have done it, but you really need to practice it at one time. Just doesn't do the trick. It doesn't do the job. You have to do this on a consistent basis. This is what successful people do. So when you sit down, you have to sit down with, okay, this is my 1-year plan. This is my 5-year plan. And where do I want to be at in those times? And don't be selfish about where you want to be at. There's nothing wrong with being successful. Money is nothing more than energy. That's all that it is. The more money you have, the more energy you have. Now, if you're a crappy person, you're just going to do crappier things. If you're a good person, you're going to take that money and use it to good. You're going to use it with good energy, whether it's philanthropic type stuff, whether it's helping out the community, sponsoring, kids that are at risk, whatever it may be. The more money we generate, the more we can do to impact the lives that are around us. And that's a big part. So that needs to be your burning desire. You need to discover that for yourself. The second thing is faith. Now, whether you're a man of God, or you don't believe in that, whatever it is, you have to have faith in yourself. I personally am a man of God. That's who I am. And I rely upon that faith that he knows what's going on. And when times are tough, like this morning, I could have got upset and pitched a fit and quit and been like, well, technology's not working, so let's just call it a day. That's not who I am. I'm not built that way. And I know that for whatever reason, that happened this morning. Don't know exactly what it is, but it happened. We had to learn from it, have to improvise, adapt, overcome, pivot, right? So you have to have faith in yourself. Because a lot of things you're going to find out is that being an entrepreneur, if you're not part of a mastermind, man, it's a lonely, lonely place because nobody understands. A lot of times your employees are not going to understand your vision. They're not going to understand your drive. And that's not their business. They don't have the blood, the sweat, the tears, the investment in it like you do. So you have to, one, project that to them and help them understand what we're trying to accomplish. But more importantly, don't have the unexpected expectations that they are going to work at it the same way you are, because it's not their business. It's our business. The power of autosuggestion. So this is huge. So there's a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways. It's by Susan Jeffers. And one of the things that I'll recommend to you is that we all have this. We all have that little voice in the back of our head. It's our limiting belief that will sow fear and doubt into our subconscious mind. So the thing is that we have to constantly, every day, tell that little voice to shut up, not be quiet. Can you come back and visit me in an hour? No, shut up. And when I'm not talking with people, with customers, or I'm not talking and when I'm speaking, if that little voice starts to try to creep in, that limiting belief from when I was a kid, I have very, very, very explicit language that I use with it. Get the bleep out. You're not allowed here. I don't allow it to seed into my mind, right? But what you need to do is that every day, I want you to journal. I want you to journal the victories and successes of the day. I also want you to keep a second journal. And if you're having a problem that you're dealing with, I want you to write it down there. Close the book. Whatever you believe in, you've got it. For me, I rely on my faith. God, I don't have an answer yet. I just need you to give it to me. So I write the problem down and I stick it to the side. And inevitably, the solution will come to mind. I equate it to like arguing with my wife. My wife's smarter than I am. She's much more fast-witted than I am. We have a disagreement and I'll say something and she's already about 5 steps ahead of me. I'll storm out of the room, come back with a better response 10 minutes later, and she's already laughing because she knows what my response is going to be, and she's already 2 steps ahead of that. So let that subconscious mind, but if you're putting negative stuff into it, the mind cannot decipher between what's rhetoric and what's fact. How many times have we said to ourselves, we do something like, oh man, you're so stupid. What are you thinking about? Well, the brain goes, okay, you're stupid. Even though that's not the case. So the thing is that the auto-suggestion we put into our brain is so important. Don't ever allow any negative input into there. Specialized knowledge. And this is where you can really make an impact. Because whatever it is that you do, whether it's martial arts, dance, cheer, gymnastics, soccer, football, whatever it is, you have specialized knowledge in that. And the one thing about it is this. Everybody's talking about AI, artificial intelligence. It's going to change the world. It's going to put people out of work. Well, you know what? They can't put us out of work. Yeah, you can put a computer up there and say, you need to do this when you're doing this technique, or you need to do this when you're doing this move. The problem is they're removing the human element. And no matter what, we're human beings and we need that contact. We need that interaction with each other. So you having your specialized knowledge makes a difference in the lives that you impact by that specialized knowledge. So always increase that knowledge. The more specialized knowledge you have, the more you can niche yourself, the more income you can make. Imagination. Let your imagination run wild. Now, you may not implement something, but how many times have you ever had an idea pop into your head and that limiting voice says, nah, it's not going to work, right? Let that imagination flow. And I've found, I'll talk about it in a minute, is that when I'm with my mastermind groups, that imagination's really firing on a lot of cylinders because I'm getting ideas in different places. I'm hearing from people from different industries, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's such an amazing idea, right? Have that imagination. Let it flow. I also call it listening to the whispers. A lot of times ideas come in and we just don't listen to it. You have to listen to it. Have that great imagination. What is organized planning? So I'll tell you, as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest things we have, I believe that all entrepreneurs have some form of adult attention deficit disorder. We get distracted by bright, shiny objects. Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel all the time, right? And we have to really be organized in our thoughts. We have to be organized in our planning. So what I do in my own personal self and with my employees is that every Friday we sit down and we organize the next week. And the reason why I do this, and I actually learned this when I was in sales. I used to sell insurance, and we would get our leads on Friday. And I learned that if I got on the leads immediately while they were hot, one, my appointment shows and my appointment makes were much higher. My closing ratio was higher. But I also learned that if I waited till Monday, then Monday the phone was a little heavy. I was getting over the weekend. I really wasn't motivated. And then now it was Tuesday. And then by Wednesday, you're panicking. Friday, it allows your mind, when you're looking at organized planning, it allows your subconscious mind to start turning on whatever it is you're working on. And it allows it to work through the weekend. And sometimes an idea will pop in. That imagination, that inspiration will pop in like, hey, do it this way. Oh, that's an amazing idea. Write it down immediately as soon as you get it. Don't wait, right? Even if you have to pull off the side of the road to put an imagination in or put an idea into place, that's okay, because it may be worth a lot of money and a lot of impact you can have on the people that are around you. So plan your weeks out on Friday. Write it down. When you get to that next Friday, look at what you did. Did you accomplish all the tasks that you had? Don't just put them in your brain. It's like people making New Year's resolutions. Yeah, I want to lose weight. I want to quit smoking, whatever it is. And 99.9% of them never come to fruition because they don't have a plan. So you have to plan out. So I actually have my coaching clients do a 90-day planner. And then we break it down into weekly segments on how we're going to get to that 90-day plan. And then we start implementing, because that way they can stay on task. They can see it. Because it's like if you told your kid, when we're looking at projects, sometimes it's so big, it's like there's no way I can get to it. So we have to break it down into smaller, manageable segments. It's like if you told your kid or you told your husband to go out and clean the garage, that's a mess. And you're like, where do I even start? So that organized planning helps you stay on task and get things done. So let's talk about decision, making a decision. Because a lot of times, this is what it is. There's forks in the road. Where do I go? What do I do? All these different things. You're going to have to make a decision. Really just get down to saying, you know what? This is what I'm going with, and I'm not going to look back and go with it. But if you don't make a decision, if you just sit back and say, right? So there's a movie, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it starred Jamie Foxx and the guy who plays Maverick in the movies. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, and why I don't know, because it's one of the biggest stars of our time. But he's an assassin, and Jamie Foxx is his driver. And Tom Cruise. When Tom Cruise tells Jamie Foxx, he sees a pamphlet sitting on the floorboard or the seat of his car, and he said, "What are those for?" He says, "I want to start my own limo business." And he said, "Well, what's preventing you from getting it going?" He goes, "Well, I need, everything needs to be perfect. I'll teach you a phrase that I learned a long time ago. Good is good enough. Get it good, implement it, go. Then you can make the corrections, you can make the pivots, you can make the modifications. But if you're waiting for it to be 100% perfect, then you're never making a decision to implement it, to get it going." I've had people that I've talked to this week, right, about, what if I don't get it to go? There's a possibility, but you have to make a decision one way or the other. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck. And that's not a place to be, especially if you're a business owner. So let's talk about, persistence. The one thing you have to be as an entrepreneur, as an academy owner, is you have to be persistent. One thing that I've definitely seen with my kids in my academy ever since COVID happened is they're different. And, and I've got some of my instructors about, what do we do? So you know what? We stay in the fight. We keep helping them. We keep moving them. We keep educating them so that eventually later on down the road, it will solidify and they'll be able to benefit from everything we're doing for them. But we just can't say, you know what? Because we do academics inside of our after school program, and we literally have kids in kindergarten, first and second grade that can't read. And they should be able to read. And it's like, what do? We keep working with them. We keep working with the teachers. You keep moving forward. If you have an idea, it doesn't work, right? It doesn't mean that your idea was stupid. It just means it wasn't right at the exact time. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the interview that Thomas Edison did, and someone said, I've heard that you've failed 10,000 times on how to make a light bulb. So I didn't fail. I can tell you 10,000 ways on how not to make a light bulb, but I didn't fail at it. Again, it goes back to that auto-suggestion. What are we putting into our brain? Are you saying I suck? Are you saying, you know what? That one didn't work. Let's go to the next one. Or let's pivot. Let's correct it. Let's move forward. And especially if you play sports where you've got a team that you're dealing with and that game plan didn't work, You don't just throw the game plan out the window. You make modifications, you move forward. That's the same thing about being persistent. This is probably one of the biggest things that I didn't get as a kid or as a young man that I understand now. And that's the power of the mastermind. It's surrounding yourself with people that are equally or more successful than you are, that you can ping ideas off of, and they'll work with you, right? They're working on helping you grow your business. They're not working to put you down. They're working to build you up. Everybody's building everybody together. It's that old saying that all tides, raise all boats. We got to get it all moving forward together. But if you don't have people that you can ping ideas off of that are more intelligent than you are, that are more successful than you are, then you're going to be stuck in the same place. Because if you go to your friends, one, there's jealousy, right? You're not going to be successful at that. It's because they have their own limiting beliefs. I remember the very first time my best friend, I had hit a goal that I wanted to hit in my business when I first opened it up in 2001 full time. And then a year later, I went out and bought myself a Corvette, convertible, souped up, whole 9 yards. I remember going over to his house. I get out of the car and he says, "Dude, you're too fat for a vet." And I just laughed. I'm like, I love you and I know you're jealous, but that's your problem, not mine. The thing is that if you surround yourself with the wrong people giving you the wrong information, then you're going to be stuck in the same place you've always been. If you surround yourself with the right people that can help grow, then you are going to be even more successful. And you'll learn from their different industries. It's a beautiful thing. Connection. So in the book Think and Grow Rich, it's called the law of sexual transmutation. And what it basically means is that people that are so focused on sexual, being and wanting to be, that sexual power and they have different partners. And I'm not knocking one way or the other. I'm just telling you that scientific studies have shown that if you have the right partner, not somebody who's telling you, you're just not going to be successful at that, you really shouldn't do it. If you look at every successful person in life, they have somebody with them on that journey that is guiding and leading them. For me, it's my wife. One, she tampers me down when I need to be tampered down. She's really rounded the edges of who I am as an individual, who I am as a husband, who I am as a father, who I am as a business owner. Because I have high expectations of my employees. And the thing is that if they weren't doing the right thing, I'd get on them pretty tough. So now I've learned to be better over the years. I've learned to be more, more pliable sometimes. Right. But without her guidance and that sounding board that I can go to when I am, doing things, I wouldn't be the man I am today. So if you don't have that person in your life, make sure that when you do put that person in your life, that they're going to support your journey. Because if they're constantly tugging on you, it's going to be a big deal. So years ago, I had a friend of mine who was a sports agent. And he called me and said, "Hey, bud, man, I'm going to send somebody to you. They're trying out for the San Antonio Spurs. They're trying out up in Austin. Can he please stay with you for a couple of days?" And he goes, "I need you to sit down and talk with him for a little bit." And I said, "Absolutely." So I sat down with him and I started going through things. And this kid was good. I'm not sure if you're familiar with basketball or not. He played with Manu Ginobili over in the European leagues and ate Manu's lunch. And Manu was an amazing player. But the one thing he said to me was, I said, "Why did you leave the European League and come back and you didn't play for like 6 months?" "Oh man, my girlfriend kept telling me if I didn't come home, she was going to leave me." And I'm like, "Dude, I love you, but you don't have the right person in your corner. If she's constantly looking and pulling you away from what your dream and your aspirations are, that's not somebody who you want to have in your corner." So he goes on and he tries out for the Spurs, and day one is amazing. He comes back to the house. He's super excited. We're doing what I call an after action report. We're kind of going through those things. We'd been into it about an hour, and the phone rings. And it's his girlfriend, and she is into it. He comes around the corner about 30 minutes later, different young man. He is depressed. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. And I said, "Okay, Dude, you got to reframe it. And we tried. He went to day 2 and he just bombed and he goes home. And I talked to him about 6 months later because now he's not playing basketball. He had to take a job locally that he hated and his girlfriend left him. So if you don't have the right partner with you, that you're supporting their journey, they're supporting yours, and you're growing each other together, you got the wrong partner. And I know that may sound harsh, but it's actually true. So our subconscious mind is such a big thing. And we talked about this in autosuggestion, right? So 95% of our behavior comes from our subconscious mind. A lot of it comes from our childhood. And, a lot of times in our childhood, I remember my mom telling me when I started my first business at 18, she literally sat me down at the kitchen table. Now, my mother was raised right after the Great Depression. So we're sitting down at the kitchen table and she says, honey, we really need to talk about this business thing. I said, okay, Mom, what's up? She said, you need to stop all this nonsense. Really, seriously. You need to get a job. You need to work at the same place for 40 years. You need to get that house with a white picket fence. You need to wife your 2 kids, get that gold watch in 40 years. Businesses fail. You're going to fail. That was the programming that I got from my mom. Now, it wasn't that she was trying to be mean. She thought she was protecting me. So the one thing I had to do is I had to shift my mindset away from the way my mom thought. And anytime she would start down the road, be like, Mom, I appreciate it, but I don't need that advice. We think differently. Now she better understands who I am. She really understands that had she had the right education early on in life, my mom's a freaking force of nature. She probably would have been the CEO of a Fortune 100 company. But nobody taught her the right way because my grandfather told her, you're a woman. Your place is in the kitchen or it's on your back. You choose. So had my grandfather been more inspiring to her, she probably would have had greater success in life. So let's listen about listening and not talking so much. So one of the things that I think we do as people is that we want to share our story so much. And I'll tell you that from a entrepreneurial view that you're dealing with families, a lot of times you can find what's really going on with a family. So one of the things that I do in my own academy is that when people come in to enroll, we go through an interview process. I want to know what I'm dealing with. I want to know if the kids got any challenges. I want to know where the kids' confidence and self-esteem and focus and all those things are at. But more importantly, I want to know where the support structure is at with the parents. Because I promise you, if you don't have the parents on board for what you do, you're swimming upstream against a really mighty stream. And they're not going to care. They just are not. So you have to find out that dynamic fast, get the parents to shift where they're at, get them to support what you're doing. So it's the village raising the child. So you have to listen to the conversations, ask the questions, let them speak. Don't try to tell how great your academy is. Find the pain point, solve the solution. Yeah, well, Johnny's getting picked on at school, or their balance is not good, or we're looking for something for them to do. So find the pain point, and then you can talk about how your program will help them improve what they really want. You can also learn a lot about things when you're doing a little fiscal assessment and the parents are sitting there coaching, or they're just not, or they try to bring out their phone and they want to look at it, right? And so the thing we want to do is we really want to make sure that we're listening more than we're spewing, because I promise you, it'll make a big difference on the outcome that you have. So intuition, that sixth sense, is super important in understanding and trusting it. I don't know how many times that I've had a little voice talk in my head. I remember one time when I was in San Antonio. I was driving back. I was doing something and I was driving back home, and I came to an intersection inside of a highway. We were merging on and off, and there was nobody coming. And so I just kept looking. There was a car in front of me, and something told me to stop, and I didn't listen to it. And sure enough, the car in front of me, for whatever reason, there was no traffic around, just stopped, and I ended up hitting him. But I learned at that point in time that I had to start listening to that inner voice. I had to start listening to that sixth sense. It's like when the hair is raised up on the back of your neck, right? That's your sixth sense. It's like if you're talking to somebody about an idea or something, all of a sudden the hair is raised up on the back of your neck. Take note of that, write it down, because there's something in that, and really do that. So one of the things that Albert Einstein said is that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And that's never been more prevalent in our society than right now, because everybody wants everybody to be in the box. They want them to be a sheep. And entrepreneurs, we're not sheep. We're not stuck in the box. We're creative thinkers. And that's the way we do. And that's the way you need to keep acting. Don't get stuck in that box. Don't let somebody tell you, oh, you have to do it. You can't do it that way. Be creative with that. Let that sixth sense dig into place. Now, let's talk about fear. Because fear is one of those things that, whether it's a fear of limiting belief, a fear of being broke, and a lot of times that comes from our childhood. Or maybe we suffered a setback in life. But fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. Remember, I talked to you about taking action. You have to take action. You have to get out there, right? So don't let your fears take hold. If I ever have a fear come in, one, I'm telling it to shut up, number one. And I'm like, it gets like 10 seconds and I'm pushing out because I don't want to let that fear. And I know what it is. It's fears of what my mom told me when I was younger. It's fears of being different than the other kids who had money that I was around, that I couldn't do the things that they could do. It's that limiting belief. I know that some of the times that that we had financial setbacks and business setbacks, right? Is that going to happen again? I don't let that creep in, because if it does, it will freeze you right in your spot and you will not move forward. You will not make a decision. You will not take action. So don't let fear control you. Don't let the fear of someone else's opinion of you control you. Don't let the fear of failure control you. Don't let the fear of, being bankrupt fail you. Most millionaires fail 7 times before they become a successful millionaire. Success and failure are a growth that's together. If we succeeded 100% of the time, we really wouldn't learn anything. But taking the failures we have, analyzing them. What did I do? What could I do better? How can I have a better outcome? Or you can say, I just suck. I'll never be successful. And that's the 2 different ways. What are we putting in to that subconscious mind? What's our auto suggestion when things are hitting us? Again, this morning, I could have said, you know what? Screw it. Not be my day. That's not how we do things. We find a way to solve it. We get it solved. We pivot. We move forward. So please, if you have fear and doubt, get it out of your head. Read that book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways. And what it basically tells you is that just, I tell my kids all the time. I tell my staff all the time. Embrace the suck. When a sucky things happen, just embrace it, go right at it, punch it right in the mouth. Let's go. We'll find a solution. It may not be readily available and to us right in our front of our face, but I promise you we'll find it. And then once we solve it, then we have history. If it ever pops up again, what did we do last time? This is what we did. Beautiful. Let's do it again. Or let's make a small pivot. Let's get it solved. We don't get all emotional about it. So like I tell people all the time, don't get mad, get data. So if you didn't have the outcome you wanted, get the data, make the adjustments, move forward. So one thing I'll tell you is stop thinking, start doing. It's like that story about, the Jamie Foxx story about him being the limo driver. You can think and think and think and think, but if you never implement, if you never move it forward, you're never going to have the outcome and success that you want. It just won't. Or you'll be sitting a year down the road in the same situation, 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road. Heck, I missed an opportunity for 16 years because I didn't read a book. I didn't listen to somebody that was much more successful than I was because I had a limiting belief that I could not be as successful as he was. Well, you're rich. You already know about this stuff. I don't. No, that's when we plug into people that are that are more successful than we are. They've already been down the journey, right? If you're wanting to grow, a $250,000 business, you don't go talk to somebody who's only making $100,000 in their business. You go talk to somebody that's at the $500,000 or $1 million mark. If you're at the $1 million mark, want to go to the $5 million mark, that's who you're talking to. 10 million mark, that's who you're talking to. You're not talking to people that are in the same boat you're in. You want to go to the people that have already gone through the trials and tribulations and the mistakes, and they have the knowledge to help you get to that point. You got to take action. Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. 2 words to move forward, the realization of your dreams, is you have to take action. If you've got a problem in your academy, if you have a problem with the staff, things going on, if you just let it go, then they're going to fester and they're going to grow and they're going to grow and they're going to grow. And then they become a lot bigger than if we'd have just taken care of it when it was small. How many times have you seen a small cut turn into something a lot bigger? Or there's a good story for you. So there's a couple, and they have a water leak in their faucet in their bathroom. And so the water leak is going, right? And it keeps going and it keeps going. Well, the one day comes about them that they have an important presentation that they have to do. And it's a business deal and it's worth millions. And then right before they leave, he's standing in the bathroom and the pipe burst and it blows water everywhere. Gets all over his suit. His wife's coming in to help out. And, they're trying to get this thing fixed and get the water turned off. And now they're a mess. Hair's all messed up. Suit's all messed up. They're late getting out the door. And the guy makes the comment, "Why didn't you say anything?" And the faucet responds, "I've been telling you for 6 months there was a problem." Right? So the thing is that we have to take action in our lives and not sit back and wait and hope it's going to turn out the way we want. Right? Whatever your expectations are of things, that's what's going to happen to you. And I'll tell people all the time that the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And so if you're not doing things the way you want and you know it internally, then you're going to have to make those changes. Have those tough conversations with yourself. It's okay. Tell yourself, we're not doing that this way anymore. We're breaking the habit. And that way, when your kids are coming up, they're seeing you do successful things and they'll emulate what you want. If you want your spouse to do better with you, set the example. Take action. So, one of the things that people have asked me this week is, how do I get started? And that is, you just got to take action. Because for me, I want to help you grow to where you want to be at. I saw so many academies fail during COVID. And I've done private coaching forever, but I've not done group coaching until last year. And one of the biggest reasons why is that I always wanted to protect the information that I had. And you know what? It's great, but for the most part, it's not going to affect my competitors around me, and they're not going to do the actions that I'm willing to do to get where I need to be at. So our boot camp is coming up. It starts this afternoon at 1:30. And so if you want to invest in that and get rocking and rolling, get things implemented, start today, start building. We still have 9 weeks before summer starts. And that's if your summer starts at the end of May, 1st of June. If your summer camp doesn't start until the 19th or the 26th, I think it is, then you've got even more time to get things ready, to find out where you want to be at. So the complete blueprint it's a complete blueprint, has all the step-by-step things you need to do. There is 8 weekly mastermind calls. They start next Tuesday. We get on the phone every day at 10 o'clock. And that way you can ask questions. You can work through issues. I'm going to give you a weekly assignment to do to get to that point. You'll have email and phone support. You'll have membership to our private Facebook portal where you can get in and mastermind with other people. The 2-day live event starts today. We have it from 1:30 to 5 today. We have it from 9 to 2 Central tomorrow. And then we're going to do a post-summer camp success summit coaching call, one-on-one, you and me. If you want, you don't have to, but if you want, we'll even handle the ads for summer camp between now and the end of May. I won't charge you the ad cost. Now, you're going to have to do the ad spend cost that's required through Facebook. But as far as the cost of doing the ads, we're not going to charge you for 2 months. That's a $1,200 value all by itself because we're designing the ads, we're doing all the stuff with it. This is what the summer camp blueprint covers. Everything from setting up our corporations the right way, making sure that you set up a nonprofit. You may not get it done this year, but in the future, that's going to help you. Research laws in your state to make sure that you're in compliance, because the last thing you want to do is spend all the time, energy, money getting it going. You got it all built. State comes in and says nope, and then you've made all these people mad in the community, and they have no place to go because all the other camps could possibly be full. How to become an essential business, setting up the framework. Whether you're purchasing vehicles, leasing them, doing charters, renting them, whatever it is, or you're having field trips and activities come to you. How to market it, making sure your website's correct. Orientation meetings. These are important for getting new families where they need to be at. Weekly communications with parents. You want to reduce headaches? You want your parents being on point for you? You got to communicate. Same thing for your staff. Employee schedules, class schedules, non-physical development time. So if they're not physically doing something, what are you having them do? And then transition them to year-round. Because if you've been on the calls at all this week, one of the things that I talk about is we use summer camps as lead funnels. Because I may only get a kid for a week or two. I'm very big on, let them choose the weeks they want. Because a lot of times they may only choose 1 week because they want to try it out. Maybe they've never considered doing whatever physical skill you're doing, and they get to do it as part of the summer camp. And so now it's like, oh, wow, well, I never thought I really enjoy that. I want to do it more. So then the parent signs up for more weeks and then eventually signs up for an after school or a full-time physical program if you have that. So I use summer camps as lead funnels. They're great revenue, great profit, but they're lead funnels because I want to get them into the year-round program. If you were here all week, we also talked about that EBITDA formula, that earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. It's that piece that they use to value your business should you decide to sell it. And you need to understand how that equates into everything you're doing when you're doing recurring revenue model businesses, because they have a 7x factor on the evaluation instead of a 2.5x factor that, say, a brick and mortar business or an online business that doesn't have recurring revenue have. So this program, is well worth over $5,000, especially with the coaching calls. You get the complete done for you blueprint, the 8 weekly mastermind calls, email, phone support up to the end of May. You get the private Facebook portal, the live event that starts this afternoon, goes to tomorrow, the weekly coaching calls. And if we do the ads for you, you'll pay the ad cost, but we're going to take care of the actual design and getting it up for you. Now, this program is only $997, or you can do 2 investments of $550, either one. And I'm even putting a 25x factor on it. So if you're investing the $997 with us, if I can't show you how to put $25K in your pocket between summer and other programs, then I'll refund your money. But I know that if you'll follow the plan, you'll do a lot more than that. And I showed numbers on Wednesday. If you just implemented, basically 12 kids a week, that's your $25,000 for the summer right there. That doesn't include if they convert to any of your skills programs, if you have an after school, that's just that. But if you can put more and then combine those totals for the year round, it's going to you're going to probably get a 100x factor by the time it's all said and done with. So you can go to this website and you can do it there. But even faster, just take out your phone and scan that QR code. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that up, but I'm going to open it up for any questions you may have regarding the program. Or if you want to talk about any of the things that we've gone over this past week. I've got about 10 minutes before I need to get on to the next thing and get to the VIP area so I can start working with those guys as well. So does anybody have any questions that they want to ask, and just type it into the chat area where you're at. And let me kind of get this brought over here so you can still do it, but and guys, there's no stupid question. There's not one. You can ask whatever you want. I'll try to answer it. If I can't, I'll go find the answer and get it back to you. But now's the time to take action on what you guys want to do and how we can help you out. And if you don't want to ask the question here, you can always ask it in the Facebook portal. I'll leave everything up for you guys to review until next week, and then we'll take it all down. And if you're not part of the coaching program, which they go to a completely different Facebook page for their group. So do you guys have any questions at all, comments, suggestions, anything at all? And again, I apologize for being late today, but hey, you know what? We improvise, we adapt, we move on, get it done. Pivot, correct it, and make it better. Any questions? All right, guys. Well, I don't see any questions coming in. I'll monitor the Facebook pages just to see if you guys have any questions come in. If you're in the VIP area, we're going to start that in about 10 minutes and get that rocking and rolling. I want to thank you all for spending the week with me. I hope that you will reach out and work on getting things implemented. And if there's any way we can help you do that and be part of our coaching group, be part of our mastermind, and really helping you grow your business. My goal is I want you to have a business that is, turning 7 figures or more with great profit levels. You're building wealth inside of your family. You're building freedom inside of your family. And most importantly is you're impacting the community on a scale that is just, legendary. So if there's no other questions, then I'm going to end the broadcast. You guys have an amazing, successful day. Thank you again for the time that you spent with me. I hope that you learned a lot, and we'll see you very soon. This is Master Shill out. Bye-bye.